When it comes to relaxing pastimes, two that will jump to mind for many is kicking back with a video game, or kicking back with the docks for some fishing. These time-honoured methods of kicking back are honoured throughout the world, but I, being the arbiter of havoc that I am, decided to put them in a blender and take all relaxation out of the resulting smoothie. Today, I embark on a quest through 10 beloved video games and put them through the ultimate litmus test of quality. How long does it take you to catch a fish? Normally I'd preamble about explaining the premise of what the video is, but if you are of the age where language processes in that wet, mushy Wernicke's area of yours, you know what video games, fishing, and the unstoppable march of time are. There is one rule: no exclusively fishing-based games just for novelty, but that's about it. I'm sorry, Action Bass. Maybe next time, buddy. Now, all of these games I had played before and knew a fish was attainable, but I decided that was where my prep would stop. There would be no labbing out, no practice runs, just me hitting start and going from there. Would I get lucky? Would I misremember something? Would I miss the bite of the fish when it came? All will be revealed, starting with the bastion of hope of 2020, I started off strong by full starting the timer, showing just how relaxed and not on edge I was, only to kick it off again as the sign for Nook Inc. came into view. I decided to start the timer from vaguely when I take control of the actual game, generally from the start screen, but in this case, there was no such thing. I yapped to these kids, named myself the number 1 for maximum efficiency, accepted the form fate chose for me, and generally mashed A as hard as my thumb could handle. Skipping the cutscene like a true speedrunner, I finally set foot on this uninhabited island where my first hunt would take place. It was short work while I remembered there was a run button and spammed through this furry dictator's ramblings until it was time for me to pick a place to live. Which of course I chose the closest place possible. Just because I'm only here to fish doesn't mean disregarding the importance of walkable cities. I lost valuable time accidentally reading the dialogue twice, then helped set up shop for Phoebe and Tybalt. As dusk fell, I collected branches and apples like an absolute pro, and an accidental weed for good measure. The fire was lit, and all that was left was to name the island after myself in honour of all of my hard work and head to bed, as I knew tomorrow would bring great fishy fortune my way. I then had a dream that a dog called me Daddy-O and told me that I was now in sync with the time stream, and I was so filled with abject horror that I had no option other than receive a smartphone and $50,000 in debt, truly living the Gen Z lifestyle. As I ran to Nooks, Phoebe teased me from the background by being one step ahead. I then took a big hit on timing, completely missing that the DIY option was already there and taking control of this time stream I'd heard so much about to leap forward a day. Upon review while writing this, not my best move. Nevertheless, once again, I ran my little legs up to Nook's tent and began the final steps. Branches? Check. Workbench? Check. I whipped up the finest rod in all the land and hurried to open water. I saw a silhouette, and just like that, we had our catch. And what else? It was a sea bass. And I agree, my performance here was at least a C+. I ended New Horizons on a respectable if suboptimal 22 minutes and 47 seconds, putting it currently at first and last place by nature of being the first game. So let's see if we can beat it by heading over to beloved game and iconic fishing experience, FNAF. Remember FNAF World? Yeah, ideally not. But this freakish little FRPG hit the world gradually back in 2015, and with it came the most important aspect of lore, Dee Dee's fishing hole. Long before her days of doing a sneaky thing to Dorco, all this little Daloon doy was known for was letting you set sail and grab your rod, and knowing it was right next to spawn, I figured this game would be a prime target. After getting spoken to by a plush, I masterfully danced through the menu, spoke to a second plush, and bolted straight to Dee Dee's, but to my dismay I was flat broke, meaning I needed to hunt down 10 shiny Faz tokens as quick as my servos could muster. So I hunted down battle and endured horrendous eye strain, not once, but twice, globbing hot cheese and pizza all over hordes of what may well be a sneak peek at the next generation of the Pokemon franchise. The second my token total crossed 10, I warped on over to Donald Duck and plunged my plunger on the first fish I saw, after noticing the giant glowing drop button in the top corner, of course. And in doing so, absolutely minced the performance of Animal Crossing with a time of 2 minutes and 17 seconds. That is over 10 times faster. and about all that FNAF World is useful for, if we're being honest. Mustn't dwell though, as we've still got 8 to go, and we don't want this video to last, oh, I don't know, 2 weeks. What's another way of saying 2 weeks? 4! You know what Fortnite is. I don't need to set this up. After equipping one of my favourite skins, I queued up and realised that my PC doesn't like Fortnite quite as much as my PS5. So, while waiting for the bus to take off, which I felt was a fair time for the timer to start, I set everything I could to the minimum settings and held my breath. Unsure if I'd even seen a fishing rod this season, and wondering if this would bear fruit at all, or if I'd need to hunt down Fishing Tycoon in the creative maps. But it was too late now. I was in the air and time had begun. I leapt out immediately, dead set on the first body of water I saw, but oh no, I see no rods. I scrambled over the hill and caught sight of a dock in the middle of a nearby lake. This was my chance, and bingo, a barrel of rods. I grabbed one and cast off into this whirlpool just off the dock and nabbed myself a shield fish. A fish which, for the first time in this video, I immediately consumed. But that was that, 1 minute and 49 seconds, and the Fortnite fish was mine. All that was left to do now is... Oh no, wait, shit! All that was left to do was apparently plummet from my spaceship and get 11th. But hey, at least Han was impressed. I knew it had to be a big one to follow up this juggernaut of a video game. Something with true fishing prowess and size to rival even the battlest of royales. It was time for the big boy. You also know what Minecraft is. It starts off as it does for all of us in those fateful 2 weeks. I clicked New World, called it Fish Speedrun, which I assume is mostly a unique thing to me, and watched that abstract multicoloured square take shape. Immediately as the timer kicked in, I recognised that green. This is a jungle. My senses were immediately heightened for certain mossy reasons, but first I needed wood. So wood I got, and here I think I should add a special shout out to the More Achievements mod I left installed, making a joke older than, let's be honest, you. After a short sprint, I remembered that fishing rods aren't made of 1 cubic meter of log, so I grabbed my wood and performed rapid actions on it until I made something helpful in the creation of other things. And some sticks. I decided to proceed downstream for little other reason than it felt right, and then... BAM! My eyes detected the unmistakable image of the colour grey. Jungle Temple, you're mine. I weaved through the bamboo like a pro and crept into the abandoned stone structure. By crept, I of course mean sprinted full speed like a maniac. And staying in that maniac character, I frantically beat up the ground like it owed me money, when in fact it owed me string. I spun around and plonked my crafting table down, and disaster struck. Sure, I was pole in hand, but I had blocked myself in. My world record pace. My glory. My summoning salt video feature, all dashed in an instant. I had no choice but to break it in like 2 seconds and, with shame in my heart, press on. I once again danced through the bamboo and definitely didn't have to punch past a bush until I reached that same river I put my fate in mere moments ago. Unable to wait, I threw my bobber mid-sprint and then all I could do was wait. Watching as the seconds ticked up and waiting for those particles. And finally, they came. 2 minutes and 28 milliseconds. Deep in my core, I knew that my folly, the crafting table and the bush, had quite possibly cost Minecraft that #1 place spot. There was only one thing I could do about it. Suffocate an unsuspecting squid and consume my prize as it shriveled on into the next life. It wasn't closure, but it felt good. The performance rocked me, and it feels only apt to follow it with a game which, frankly, doesn't stand a chance of winning. But it does fill my Pokemon quota. You may be thinking to yourself, why Pokemon X specifically? Well, aside from it creating the best Pokemon ever created, this was also the only game I could remember where you get the fishing rod from off the top of my head. So to keep with the blind-ish nature of the challenge, it's the pick I landed on. 2 minutes and 28 milliseconds. Deep in my core, I knew that my folly, the crafting table and the bush, had quite possibly cost Minecraft that #1 place spot. There was only one thing I could do about it. Suffocate an unsuspecting squid and consume my prize as it shriveled on into the next life. It wasn't closure, but it felt good. The performance rocked me, and it feels only apt to follow it with a game which, frankly, doesn't stand a chance of winning. But it does fill my Pokemon quota. I went through the motions of meeting the hot professor, lucking out with the default pick being blonde, and naming myself the most efficient form of sleep I could think of. I got pecked awake, ran downstairs to my mother, and remembered to change the game speed. I'm a regular pulse effects, you may notice. As such, I sprinted straight out the door, only to be accosted by my rivals. I followed them off to Aquacord, where they sat me down and got me confused with a Smash Bros YouTuber. Looking at my biggest videos, I get it. I decided to go with Fennekin, as the only gym leader that lay ahead of me was the bug-type trainer Viola, and I figured it would give me the easiest time. With that nice and foreshadowed, I beat up Shauna's rat, passed a "you up" text on from the professor to my mum, and got helpful encouragement from the rhino that sleeps in our front yard. Invigorated by Rhyhorn's words of wisdom, I went up to Route 2, fled from a bird in abject fear, and received self-defense classes in case the same situation should arise in the future. Into Santaloon Forest I went, making sure to get some levels on Fennekin as I went to aid me through the trial of the gym. I found a 6% chance Pikachu, reunited with the people who alleged to be my equals, dodged some toddlers, and avoid a drive-by shortly before rushing myself into the hospital. Alright, it's time. I want to be the very best, and that means one thing: obtaining some roller skates. Fulfilling this life goal with relative ease, into the gym I went, disappointed that this wasn't the one where you swing through the air and climb on trees. I bolted towards Viola, taking down this unassuming child in the process, and began my battle for the badge. It wasn't long before I knew what was in store. Viola immediately began performing water sports on my poor Fennekin, and fainted before I could even realise what was going on. No matter, I'm a big boy, I can roll with the punches. I decided to take an alternate route I legitimately never have taken in my life for the extra XP, but failed to eke out even a single extra level. I needed to take yet another untrodden path to nab myself some more XP at the cost of this snug bug. I hit level 12 and ran straight ahead towards that brick wall once more, determined to win. She soaked me again, but I came back smarter, no longer relying on just my fire moves for the battle. Soon the Surskit was slain and Vivian appeared before me and killed me with infestation. Fine, back we go, yeah, kill the scuttlebug before it has time to jamboree, butterfly time. Third time truly was the charm in this case, as I was able to slay the winged beast and claim my first and only badge of the run. Fast as I could, I headed for Route 4, entered easy mode, masterfully avoided fellow skaters, and spoke to these two who showed up a game early. Here it was, Lumio City. The goal was the lab, which I naturally headed straight over to, going to the wrong floor at first, for a very good reason, trust me. It was time to get payback for flirting with my mother. Professor Sycamore would fall to my mighty Fennekin. He killed me the second a water type hit the field. Mercifully though, I was allowed to keep my pocket change and get lost looking for a cafe. Again, for purely tactical purposes. Two people I can only assume to be irrelevant background character set pieces talked about beauty or something. I got a phone call, Route 5 time. Oh yeah, you're here. Thanks for bonding with me, I think. Not far to go, just gotta get through Tiano. When did I last heal? Oh. Okay, we run it back, there, die, shut up, let's make sure that that doesn't happen again. Just gotta learn some history against my will, look at a bear, resist the urge to go and get my precious baby, trap a dog, watch fireworks in the daytime, record a solo, run away, learn about sex, yet another rival battle, and run for my damn life! Why does so much happen between gyms 1 and 2 in this game? I'm not even covering all of it! No time to dwell though, I gotta go as fast as I can down Route 8, land another rare spawn, reach Ambret Town, and you! Finally! Give me that immediately! The moment was finally here. I reached the water, cast off, and landed the love disc that would finally free me from this torment. 58 minutes and 39 seconds. Oh my god. Now, could it have been, and admittedly, should it have been faster? That's irrelevant actually. I tried to cap the run off by killing it, realised a single hit barely did anything, and just cut the recording off right there. How's that for a finish, huh? Well, not content on how much I've already utterly embarrassed myself, let's move on to The Sims 4. For when just setting fire to your money is too convenient. It had been years since I touched this game, but I confirmed with my recovering Sims player fiance that there is in fact fishing. As soon as I entered the character creator, I got bombarded with questions and was granted this woman as my avatar for the run. I checked if there were any fishing related perks, gave her an apt name, and began my new life. Just kidding, I see a body of water. I see go fishing, I click. There's a meter, but I suppose it makes sense you have to practice before you can just start reeling them in left and right. Let's just wait. Okay, I'll clear up some dialogue boxes, queue up some more fishing, just in case, and just wait. Just wait a minute! I'm too dumb to fish in my own backyard? Where's more water? How do I leave? Where's the map? Oh god, how do people play this? What is going on? Oh, there it is, that's neat. I assumed a park was the best bet for a newbie like myself, and sure enough, a winding river awaited. As my sim sprinted over, I remembered another handy feature. The integral to the game fast forward button! Oh my god, what is wrong with me? Sure enough, within seconds I had reeled in a koi, along with a few abandoned tyres as a chaser. And while better than the last run, 8 minutes and 29 seconds still put this performance as downright sluggish. I needed something I was more familiar with. I needed... Allow me to make one thing perfectly clear from the start. I'm not a speedrunner. I don't know optimal routes, I just like the funny Wahoo game. With that cleared up, I performed some downright terrible movement as it became clearer and clearer that I hadn't touched this game in years. You know, in case that wasn't obvious. I did manage to eventually fumble my way to the frogs and put those little amphibian legs to work getting to the top of the tower. The attempt to exit the capture with plus and bonking into the cap door served as a great cherry on top of this suboptimal cake. Topper thankfully wasn't too much trouble, and soon enough came the wire to the great logo in the sky. The sunny skies of Cascade Kingdom welcomed me into wasting my time depositing a single moon into the Odyssey by accident, but luckily I had somewhat remembered how to control the game with that additional time. Up went the dino into the Madame Brood fight, which, like a lot of things in this game, gave me more of a run for my money than I would like to admit. And for the last moon of Cascade, I'm just going to leave it in unedited, if nothing else, as a way to atone for my incompetence. Jesus Christ. Let's just get on the ship and forget this ever happened. Time for sand, the place I expected this run to end. Unfortunately, climate change had slipped my mind as I descended into sand and headed straight for the oasis, only to find it totally frozen over. Okay, fine, let's just... And there. Not wishing to bother with knuckle attack, I figured the Lakitu in Lake would work just as well. So off I went. Where'd he go? Turns out Lakitu is actually scared of rabbits, as after I dealt with Rango, there he was. All I had to do was take over his mortal form, and have one last dose of being bad at the game, and reel in a cheap for an admittedly pitiful time of 32 minutes and 42 seconds. As you can see from the footage, I was eager to put that experience behind me. Well, it was still better than Pokemon, I can at least say that. But when it took me almost half the time some people need to beat the game just to catch a fish, I can't say I'm too proud of myself. I really gotta get a good performance. And I think I know just the game. Now this is a speedrun. I knew this would be easy, and so I filled in my information, chose an apt farm type, and even skipped the death of my grandfather to optimize the run. Fun fact, almost everything I'm currently doing is a time loss, as I run around like an idiot when all I need to do is just trust my gut and head up on back to bed. Up I got, and sure enough, Willie's mail was in my mailbox and I was bound for the beach. I got my rod and immediately cast off before deciding to change spots a couple of times after getting no bites. Finally, it came. I performed relatively fine at the catching minigame and reeled in a handsome 12-inch herring in just 2 minutes and 24 seconds. Now that is more like it. Though, I must admit, Stardew Valley was never the beloved indie game with a gorgeous pixel art style that captured my heart. No. That award goes to our next and penultimate entry. I like Terraria. A lot. I have fished in Terraria. A lot. How bad can this possibly go? Once again, I picked the perfect name for myself and my world and was immediately dead set on acquiring wood. I had a rod in my hand in breakneck pace just under 30 seconds into the entire run, and I ran straight away to the first water I could find. I instead found the opposite, a huge desert in which a vulture murdered me. No matter, I was still making great time. I'll just head the other way, surely I've not forgotten anything. Ah, here's some water. Let's cast off and... Oh god, I don't have any bait. Okay, quick, gotta find a living tree. I'm pretty sure they have cans of worms, right? Or maybe this chest? No, okay, soldier on. There's a living tree. But no chest? Are you serious? Okay, maybe this one. Oh god, how could I have been so stupid? No fish would want just a raw hook. I'm doomed! The only thing I can conceive in my tiny mind is just to save up for the merchant, get the bug net, and nab a worm that way. I slaughtered the creatures of the land and scrounged up a gold coin as night fell. And since the housing was done, there was only one thing left to do. You can't see this, but I'm in a hole right now. I'm fairly sure I went to the bathroom during this. Bet that's the first time you've seen that during a speedrunning video. Oh, thanks for the light, zombie. Speaking of light, And with it came the merchant. I bought a net as fast as I could, mowed the lawn for a worm, got back to the pool and chucked my bobber in for an overdue bass to receive the final time of 23 minutes and 3 seconds. A shameful time, if I'm being honest. But luckily, this parade of disaster is almost over. One last one to go. I'm sure it'll be fine. I had decided to do Wii Play when I thought my Wii capture card was still functional, but since that isn't the case and I really wanted to include this one, we're going off hardware for this last run. I mapped what I needed onto my Wii Remote and leapt into this climactic closer. Since I couldn't just go straight to the fishing frenzy, I trudged on through Aim Labs for Babies, the best minigame in this collection, throwing at ping pong, realising you can't rotate a mouse cursor, and what should be a competitive esport, watching as the seconds ticked up and turned to minutes. But wasn't to be swayed as all that stood between me and the rod was billiards. It was around here that I was moving my mouse back and forth like an idiot, slowly realising that I both hadn't mapped the motion controls and I had no idea how to. That's right, not only am I using the bathroom during my speedruns, I am looking up Reddit posts on how to play Wii Play billiards on Dolphin, also I can catch a fish for a YouTube video. Eventually, after way too long, I got it sorted. But then I realised that I could only hit the cue ball with the maximum strength of 1,000 suns! It was a shoddy game of billiards. I will not lie to you. But I slogged through and finally saw the light at the end of the tunnel. Rod in hand, it was time to claim my destiny. But not before forgetting the controls and attempting to reel in a fish, I instead minimised the window. Normal stuff. I recovered quickly though, and just like that, mystery fish was caught, and Wii Play hit the scoreboard at 18 minutes and 18 seconds. A lovely little matching number to end on. When all was said and done, the standings were as follows, with Pokemon X making everything else look like a GDQ entry, and Fortnite reigning supreme in yet another category. This was a really fun challenge, and a new style of video for this channel, so if you liked it, show your support down below by leaving a like or subscribing. And thank you so much if you've watched all the way to the end, or indeed just skipped to the end for the results. Thanks to my members, Matt H and Chloramite, for your support, and I suppose all that's left to ask is, which games would be faster?